Hello, my fellow TikTokers, my fellow YouTubers. It's another episode of Hey Vinny. Question of the day goes out to at DJ Deliverance. DJ DELEVERANCE. 16 hours ago, so not so bad on getting back here, right? Great questions. 2 questions from this gentleman. Or a girl. The first one's referencing to the video I posted last on a question, the Hey Vinny one. So, we're talking about the energy electromagnetic turning into capacitance when the electromagnetic field is no longer in motion. So that means there's no motion, so it becomes electrostatic, okay? Woo! Love my electrostatic. What I'd like to do is get rid of that light behind me. How about that? How about we do that? Let's see if we can. There we go. Yeah! Lights there. Let's go. My electrostatics. Back. Okay. So, question is there any way we can store that 70% in a battery or something like the some percent to store? Maybe. So, well, let's talk about that. Sorry about the light. It will be whatever it is. The thing is there. The energy that you're going to, say, partake in a electron flow or positron flow, which will coincidental, will be coming from the electrostatic field. So yes, and then that would be going in wire, and then therefore go into capacitors, and then therefore stored. Before it's stored, well, we would store it in high voltage, but then break it down into low voltage and bring up, when you have high voltage and you break it down, you lose your voltage, but you gain your amperage. So, with that being said, you're not going after the 70%, you're going after the 30%, because it's the 70% keeping the motion going. Per se, if it was like a, say, a Tesla induction engine, and you would need 70% of it to keep the motion. Same as if I was pushing a kid in the swing. In the beginning, I'm going to take, a good amount of energy, right? I'm going to push, right? Get the person going, and then the person's going to come back to me. Now I'm going to push them again, right? Then person's going to come back to me. But the time frame of them going out is the energy exerted from, therefore, me. So as I push them and get them going, and then when I feel they're at to where they're going, wee, then I therefore don't have to push any more in exertion to get further speed. All I have to do is maintain the motion, and now it's very little coming out of my hands, okay? It just, every time they come, I'm just barely touching them. It's angular momentum. It's perpetual motion, in a sense. It's kinetic energy. Okay, you got where I was going, right? Sorry not to get carried away. Woo! All right, so you keep that 70% to keep that going up until it gets to a true residency. Then from there, in a harmonic from that tone, that, if you convert that energy force in the beginning of the push, what do you think the sound would be like? Ugh, you're grunting. I'm just saying. Poof, my age. You're grunting. So there's an energy force in that grunt. So therefore, that is the frequency in that tone. That's how Ed found frequencies in his levitation, which we'll get into some episode. But back to DJ Deliverance, okay? So in that 70-30% ratio, you do need the 70% in the beginning, and you got the 30% that builds up in capacitance in the top, okay? And then it amplifies, and then what happens there, it becomes a balanced resonant structure between the primary bouncing up in electromagnetic field and the wire itself in reference to the ether is moving upwardly in a right-hand spin. It's providing that your coil is wound and, well, it's coming up in a right-hand spin regardless the way the coil is wound, but the coil will determine what pole comes up top. How about that at the end? We'll go there later, top and bottom dipoles. So when it's doing that, it's getting to the top, and then there it'll build up, and then all of a sudden there's a change. Now you're pushing the kid in the swing with very little energy. So yes, you can store the 70% and go after that. And where would you find that? Because what you're creating here is a stable area of electrostatic. You're creating a oscillating electromagnetic field that is going through the grain of ether, which therefore the ether is causing it to run in a right-hand turn twist right here, and here's your wires turning, and that's the direction it's going. And if it's going to the left hand, it's going this way. Here's your wires, and here is your thumb going downward. Check this out. It gets really good. So, DJ, in that 70%, from therefore, you need to be knowing about the next circuit that's going to be the receiving circuit from that, because in that you're dealing with high voltage, okay? Just say we're dealing with 120,000 to 500,000 volts, okay? We are very little amperage, very minimal. But what we want to do is encapsulate that high voltage and not let it escape. And you can't do that in the Ed Lee Scallon form by trying to put it in a caisson and think it's not going to run into the caisson and go right through it, because you're dealing with more of a longitudinal wave in that point. Electrostatic fields go through everything, except for plastics, dielectrics. Only because they stick and separate, and that keeps them there, bounds them there. But iron, they would just dissipate in the iron, because the iron's permeable, especially ferrous materials, but iron even more so, because the ether is resilient, and the iron will just suck the chrome off a trailer hitch, just say. So you can go after the 70%, but you got to know where you're putting it, okay? And then you got to break it down, and just like the high voltage lines from transformers, 110,000 volts isn't 250 to 120 to 250 or to 500,000 volts, but it's the same principle, and it all comes down to where's your electromagnetic force when it does come down to the speeds, because you're dealing with certain other things to go along with it. So that's question number one. Question number two. You ready for this one? This one's even more exciting to me, but I got carried away on the first one. And thank you, DJ, for your question. And you guys out there, if you want a question, just leave it. I get to it. Second one is, and this is a good point that he says, so obviously it shows he's a smart dude, smart person. I'm thinking Tesla induction engine plus perpetual motion machine that uses magnets to keep it accelerating, and that can help store more energy, is technically free energy. Free. But it's from the work of the magnets, true, and the copper, the electrons get excited and move around the copper wire. And the question is, on that preset for that question, is does it move through the wire or around the wire? Great question. I wish I knew. No, I'm only kidding. A great question. Only because you're the first that had asked me this, and I'm going to bring you down two avenues, and I truly think that you're going to appreciate where it comes from, all right? So first we'll start off with, I got a little card here somewhere. Here's the card. Let me see. Right there. Is that you? Yep. So I'm going to break it down in two ways. We're going to thank our troubadour Kepler, okay, for this. Even though Kepler's in the planetary, we're going to break it down through nature. I'm going to call it, planetary, and how it works outside from above, so below. And yeah, you guys get that. But for the people who want to get off here at 12 minutes, in physics, the Coriolis force is an inertial force that acts upon an object in motion within a frame. In motion within a frame, a reference that rotates with respect to an inertial frame. In a reference frame with clockwise rotation, the force acts to the left of the motion of the object, hence wire. So in a short, that's that. But the fun part is Kepler with the stars. So we're going to start off in short, and this is the quick build-up to how we get to why the wire runs outside or how the energy, the electrons and positrons run outside the wire. It doesn't go through the wire as most referenced. Think like water, like a hose. So everybody actually, that's a misconception. You hear me? That it doesn't flow through the copper. The copper is all protons and neutrons. It don't want anything in there, but it wants to be aligned up. And this is cool. You guys ready for this? Are you ready for this? So, in case of an electron and positron which are spiraling inward in a positronal orbit, space, the accumulated ether pressure, this is cool, does not cause them to recoil at the moment of closest approach. Instead, they take their place inside the double helix magnetic field structure, and they accumulate ether pressure inside itself, okay? And the ethereal pressure in itself recoils to two opposite directions. in the form of gamma protons. This is really, really cool. The angular momentum is transferred into a fine-grained angular momentum of electromagnetic radiation. Radiation. No actual electron, positron inhalation takes place. Okay, so there's nothing being like sound systems. You'll get feedback. People say, it's just annoying, but no, it's really good. Longitudinal waves. Inhalation takes place. No actual electron positron inhalation takes place as in commonly believed. The electron and positron are still physically present in the magnetic lines of force. Although large planetary objects entrain a luminous phoresis medium while undergoing transitional motion, we know from 1925 Michelson's Gale experiment that this does not appear to be so, either in the case of rotational motion or in the case of small objects that are undergoing transitional motion. In these cases, it seems that the inertial forces overcome the bonding forces. When a wire moves at right angles through a magnetic field, we would expect electric sea flow through the intermolecular spacing in the wire as water flows through the basket. The input force that moves through the wire will generate ether pressure from positrons on the leeward side of the molecules of the wire. Due to dilation of the ethereal dipoles, the ether pressure gives rise to an electromagnetic force. Bam! The ether pressure of the windward side of the motion will be due to compression of the electron-positrons dipoles, okay? The resulting vorticity. Yeah. You want to get funky? Due to compression and vorticity, gradient in electron-positron dipoles around the molecules of the wire. So the wire itself is the positrons and electrons are running and swirling on the outside in a right-hand fashion, okay? There's your wire, there's your, same thing with the planets, okay? As we're heading, following the sun in this pull. Third rock out. The ether pressure gives rise to electromagnetic force. The ether pressure on the windward side of the motion will be due to compression in electron-positrons dipole. The resultant vorticity gradient to the electron-positrons dipoles around the molecules of the wire will therefore cause a Coriolis force, which will deflect the newly generated leeward ethereal pressure at right-hand angles along the wire, hence giving rise to an electrical current. Convectively induced electromagnetic induction is therefore closely related to Kepler's second law of planetary motion. So thank you, DJ. Sorry, guys, for 18 minutes. I love this, and I love you. Leave your comment. Write in. I got so much. And electromagnetic forces is with electrostatic is going to allow us to levitate. Crazy, levitate. It's crazy. It's due to just knowing all this, how it works, and how a magnet works, and how the forces will repel. But things aren't like rocks or everything aren't they aren't electromagnetic, they're electrostatic, but they're cousins, they're in the same room. All you need to know is how to know where and what to send where and get things to repel off of each other. And the great thing is we got to go back to my number one is Bach, because he gave us to be able to take notes and make music. And that's how it's done, by knowing to where place frequencies and harmonics of frequencies in a chamber to allow it to be able to lift off the ground like nothing's there. It's just about knowing where to move the electrons and positrons inside the structure where there's protons and neutrons that take over all the places. One atom. Crazy trillions and trillions and trillions and trillions of cells in a rock, just say. Good. You know why? Because we're going to use them against themselves, and we're going to move everything around the rock and allow the ground's negative opposing up. Well, what did I say in my last thing? That if you put a positive above the ground, earth ground, negative electrons are going to come out. Well, if you place your rock above ground, it's like a magnet, but in electrostatic form. You break a magnet apart, try putting them back together. Nah, hell no. They make their own poles. Bye-bye, no longer want to be with you. Okay, like the birdies breaking from the nest. No longer coming back. Same thing with the rock when you take it from the ground. The poles change, so it's going to suck the chrome off the trailer hitch on that rock down to the ground. That's Kepler's law. That's Newton's law. That's the boys. But back to it, if you know how to take that rock, know its frequency, and know where to move the electrons and positrons in that rock in order to allow the north side to be the bottom side of the rock would levitate itself off the ground because it's acting off natural process of the ground being negative. Leave your comment, leave your comment, leave your comment, leave your comment. I had a great time, guys. I love you. I got so much more information here, but in other doses. Too much videos, too long. Till next time. I miss you.